Hello friends, welcome to the Shed on Friday. I'm Chevee, thanks for being here, thanks for coming back every day and hanging out with me and chatting with me in the comments. I've had so much fun this week on this show, not only talking with you, not only sitting in front of the camera, but the editing that I had to do on Wednesday for Wednesday's episode was awesome. I loved talking to David. I love sharing stuff like that I find people, and like the Making It podcast I talked about yesterday. I want to share more of that type of stuff if you guys will have it. And I know that there's a large portion of you that watch this show every day because you found me through board gaming, or you're a close friend and you just want to hear whatever it is. Specifically, Making It podcast, the podcast I talked about yesterday, you should listen to today's episode if you do anything. Like, literally anything. Because their podcast is called Making It, and because it's three guys who are crafty, woodworking, metal worker, whatever, that's not necessarily what they talk about on that show, motivation and overcoming obstacles. That stuff applies to life. Like, they're just three really insightful guys who share a perspective that applies to just about any creative craft. So anyway, go check them out. No content to share with you this week, but I do have a question from a viewer, from a friend, Brad Richards, who we've shown his stuff on the show before. Sent me a pretty cool question. He wants to know, and I'm just going to read it. Is that okay? Do you mind? I hope not. Hello, Chevee. I'm a fellow motorcycling enthusiast, and I'm curious to know what type of motorcycle you own. I believe you have a cruiser, but I'm not sure. I'm looking to buy a used Kawasaki Vulcan 1500. I have been out of motorcycle scene for some time, and I would like to begin riding again. This might be a good video topic about how you chose your motorcycle and why. Just a thought. I owned a black 1977 Honda 750K years ago and wish I'd never sold it. I wish I'd never sold every bike I've ever owned. My current bike is a cruiser style bike. Pictures will appear in this general area. It is a 2003 Suzuki Volusia. This is a 800cc bike, so it's a small bike. In engine displacement, but it's actually a very large bike. Larger than my Harley that I had for a while. This is my, I don't know, sixth bike or something like that. I've been riding motorcycles or powered two-wheeled vehicles since I was tiny. I had we called it a moped, but it was more of a motorcycle that my dad built when I was growing up. I rode it all over there's a stink bug. I rode it all over the yard and the neighborhood, and it was essentially a frame with a couple of go-kart tires and a lawnmower engine with a chain drive, and it had a throttle grip and everything, brakes. I rode that thing all over the place when I was a kid. And so my dad was a car guy. If it's not obvious, my name is Chevee. My dad was a car guy, and I never really was. Like, I like cars, I appreciate them, but I've never been like, I gotta buy this and rebuild it. No, I've always been a motorcycle guy, and maybe that scooter that he had made is the reason why. I'm not sure. But I've always been fascinated with motorcycles, and I've always loved riding them. So when I was first on my own in the Marines, the very first vehicle I owned was a Yamaha Raz moped, a 50cc moped that it's about this big, and here I was just like 6'4" dude riding it around. But I was in Hawaii, so it was fine. Like, that's normal in Hawaii to see, like, you see Hawaiians ride these things around. So it wasn't that big of a deal. This is my third Suzuki. I had a early 80s 250 RX or something like that. No, SX250R, I think it was called. Loved that bike. It was a full-size frame bike with a 250cc engine on it. Loved riding that thing around. I had a 450 GSXR. GSXR, that's what it's called. I had a 450 GSX, like an 85 or 86 model. And then now this Suzuki. I've had a Honda, an old Dream. I had two Harleys. I had a late 80s, like an 87 I think it was, Sportster. And I had a 72 Electroglide, FLH. It was a full dresser, big bike. So this is the only bike I've owned that's been produced in the last 2-3 decades, so that's cool. And I like it that way. I like older motorcycles simply because as a mechanic I want to be able to fix my stuff, and modern motorcycles have emissions controls, have fuel injectors and control computers and all that stuff, and if something happens I can't fix it on the side of the road. That's like, call a truck. Well, I'm a fix-it kind of person, so I like my carbureted bikes. I just who I am, and that's how it is. And so this bike, I got it because I had my Harley. This is like this is the story, right? Like, this is everybody's story. Had my Harley, got married, sold bike. It just worked out that way. It wasn't because Jamie said I had to sell it. Jamie is absolutely terrified of motorcycles and will never ride, but she doesn't mind that I do. She appreciates the fact that I love it so much, but she's not interested. And we had the Harley, but we bought a house, and then jobs changed and financial situations changed, and suddenly it was keep the bike or and lose our house. So I had to decide, do I want to pay bills and eat, or do I want to ride my bike? So got rid of the Harley. Then I went 5 years without a motorcycle in my life. That's the longest I've gone since I was in the military. And this bike I just fell in love with it. I never really liked my Harley. Like, I wasn't a Harley guy, and I'm still not. They're not fun to ride for me. I don't enjoy riding them. This motorcycle was a friend's, and I absolutely loved it. And I told him if he ever wanted to get rid of it, he needed to ask me. And it just so happened I started my new job, and I had a 95 Jeep Wrangler that was like lifted, big tires. And my job required travel, and it just wasn't practical on a lifted soft top Jeep to travel all over the state, and at 15 miles to the gallon or whatever. And at that point in time, he decided that he didn't want the bike anymore, and he offered to sell it to me. And I said, listen, you sell my Jeep for whatever you get out of it, I don't care, and then we can trade. You just keep the money and give me the bike. So he did. And I've had it ever since. So I was probably 2010. I've had it for, it's probably 2011. I've had it for 5 years now. I put about 10 to 20,000 miles a year on it. I ride a lot for work mostly, almost exclusively. I'm not really like a casual rider. I ride so much for work, but I don't really have that weekend desire. Most guys who just ride on the weekends, they don't get to ride every day at work for 100 miles or whatever, so they want to get on their bikes and go. I still love riding. I will ride anytime somebody calls me and says, do you want to go for a ride? Yeah, absolutely. But I absolutely love it. The bike that you're looking at, the Vulcan, is a absolutely great bike. I wouldn't pass it up if it's in good shape and it's not like an R title, which is recreated or whatever. It was wrecked. They're great bikes. That bike, being an 800, it was geared really awkwardly. It was geared super, super, super low, like a dirt bike. You would take off in it, and it would, like, as soon as you gave it gas, you wanted to shift gears. It was just so low geared. And then when you're on the interstate, it just would, like, rattle because it just whined so loud. And I found some guys online on a forum, and people were taking rear ends off of the 1500 that Suzuki had at that time and adapting them to fit this bike. So I've done that modification, and it's now the perfect bike for me. It's the perfect size. It's perfect mileage I get out of it. I don't need to go faster than 85 or 90 that it can do. In fact, I don't know. I've never even tried to see how fast it'll go. It doesn't rattle my brains. It's shaft drive, liquid cooled. I don't get overheated on it. It's absolutely perfect, and I will keep it until I just can't maintain it anymore and I have to get something different. But yeah, if you have the opportunity to pick up the Kawasaki, I would say go for it. I've ridden with a lot of Kawasaki guys, and they absolutely love their bikes, so I would see no reason to pass it up. Hope that helps. If you want to know anything else about motorcycling, tires, oil changes, filters, brakes, maintenance, let me know. Anybody. It's open to everybody. Just let me know. If you ride, send us pictures. Put them in my mailbox, and I'll show them here on the shed, and we can talk about our bikes, because I love bikes, if you weren't aware. That's it for today. Don't forget Fridays are Friend Fridays. You submit your contents to my email, whether it's pictures or artwork or videos or whatever it is. Or you can send me letters or send me something to put on the wall, and if you send me something physically, I send you a postcard back. And we put all that onto the Friday episodes, like this, and then we have fun for the weekend. So thank you guys for being here. As always, if you like what I'm doing here, give me a thumbs up. That is huge. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and leave me some comments. Tell me about motorcycles or whatever the heck else you want to talk about down there. I'm open to discuss just about anything. I'll see you Monday.
Hey Doc, wait! I want to ask you something.
Today's random fact comes from fcla.edu. What was the first permanent Spanish settlement in what is now the United States? Pedro Menendez de Avila hastened across the Atlantic, his sights set on removing the French and creating a Spanish settlement. Menendez arrived in 1565 at a place he called Saint Augustine, and established the first permanent European settlement Let's try this again. And established the first permanent European settlement in what is now the United States. So, St. Augustine. I assume that's in Florida, since this is a Florida website.